What's up, YouTube? It's your boy, Dermy Wormy. I'm coming at you with a brand new video. And today, let me quickly pull it up and make sure I have everything located and stuff. I make it no surprise that I actually don't like The Last of Us. I really don't like The Last of Us Episode 3. I think it's tokenizing. I think it destroys Bill and Frank. I think I saw Shadowversity's take on it. I actually have an exact similar, but also from the opposite point. I view Frank as being very manipulative, coming onto a man and forcing himself onto a man to get himself what he wants. I view it as nothing more than a pointless episode that also doesn't make much sense when you take into account that in episode 2 of The Last of Us, they established that the cordyceps infection, the fungus, whatever you want to call it, is a hive mind. So when you hurt one of the infected, you alert the entire horde to your location. There are tendrils growing around all over the world that if you step on it, you alert the entire horde to your location. But oddly enough, in this one little cul-de-sac, in this one little suburb, they don't exist for the past 15 years or so. But, you know, all that aside, you can't criticize this episode. You can't, because it has LGBT representation. So much so that you have the likes of CNN and NBC calling it HBO's The Last of Us adaptation is a milestone for LGBTQ gamers. LGBTQ gamers who spoke with NBC News said the third episode of the series, focusing on a queer romance, gave them hope for the future of video games. Shut up! You know why I'm telling you to shut up? Because you obviously didn't watch the game, you obviously didn't play the game, you obviously don't know anything about the game, because if you knew anything about the game, you would know that Bill and Frank were already gay, and also they hated each other by the end of their relationship. They hated each other. Frank hated Bill. Frank left the compound because he couldn't stand being around Bill, who was so protected all the time and never wanted to do anything. So Frank leaves the compound, gets bit, and then kills himself, leaves a note for Bill, where he specifically says, "Bill, I hate your guts." This show retroactively changed the entire story of Bill and Frank, which they were gay, let's be real. They changed the entire story to simply say that they were perfect and they never saw any hardship or any trauma. They saw one Raider thing, but you know, in this post-apocalyptic world where the fungus is a hive mind, and if you step on a tendril, if you hurt any one of them, you end up calling the entire horde, even though we live right outside in a suburb of Boston and everything like that. We managed to live peacefully for 15 years. Oh, it's a triumph. It's the greatest thing ever. Give it all the awards. It was tokenization at the finest. It was pathetic and awful. And the fact that people are falling for it is unbelievable. I saw Mahler defending it. I saw Critical Drinker pointing out, well, this isn't good for the overall show, but this episode was good. No, it's not good when you take into account the hive mind of the cordyceps and the fact that the tendrils grow all over the world. Said in episode 2 of the show. This episode is so awful. It is not a milestone. It is not. From CNN, The Last of Us just made an entire claim to one of the best TV episodes of 2023. Oh! It's amazing. We love it. I can go on Google. In fact, I'll do that real quick. You know, I'll do that. Pull this up over here. I'll do it real quick. Let's do Last of Us episode 3. I'll go news. I can pull it up here. HBO's The Last of Us adaptation is a milestone for LGBT gamers. Everything coming to Peacock. And that's not The Last of Us. Last time I did this, I typed in I did MSNBC. That's why. Last of Us 3. We'll just type in Last of Us 3. Hit news. The Last of Us 3 supporting character gets a hopeful and heartbreaking standalone story that diverts from the actual story of the show. The actual story of the show, which is Joel and Ellie's relationship, and the fact that Bill and Frank's story actually further shows trauma for Joel, and every time he gets close to somebody, they die. They die tragically. The Last of Us Episode 3 recap. You have the reviews, the tiny detail, The Last of Us Episode 3 that explains the show's first mystery. What mystery? There's nothing good in the show. It's just a bunch of people saying, oh my god, it's amazing, it's heart-warming, it's fantastic. For some, we'll go back to the NBC, for some LGBTQ gamers, their first exposure to queer characters in a video game was the curmudgeonly Bill in the 2013 blockbuster hit, The Last of Us. That was not the first iteration of a gay character. We go over and over with people retroactively changing people to gay. I do not believe that Bill was the first time you had a gay character. On Sunday, a decade later, those gamers watched in awe as Bill's story, a romance with his partner Frank, became the focal point in episode 3 of HBO's widely popular adaptation of the game. It is bastardization. It didn't show Bill and Frank's story properly. It doesn't make sense when you take into account that this cul-de-sac, this suburb, this area right outside Boston, they show it right outside Boston. Don't acknowledge what Bill says that Boston's just that way, 10 miles. No, or a day and a half or whatever, however far it was. No, it's right outside Boston. You have the cordyceps, which is an infection fungus that is a hive mind that spreads out all across the world. Ignore that. It doesn't make sense. This whole life doesn't make sense when you have the cordyceps hive mind. It was gorgeous, and I was so not expecting it, said Darian Laustein, 41, a video game consultant who is gay. Obviously, I've played the games religiously, and I know there's a gay character in there, but I was not expecting an 80-minute tear-worthy piece of art. If you played the games religiously, you would have acknowledged that this was not good. This is not the original story. The original story was something completely different. But no, you want to hide behind the shield of LGBTQ representation. I got called a straight white angry guy today because I don't like this show. I don't like it. It's nothing to do with Bill and Frank's relationship. In fact, I think it's a toxic relationship. I think Frank is actually the toxic one. I don't think Bill is, but Bill is also toxic. I think that whole relationship is bad. I don't care that they're gay, though. I view Frank as manipulative, and I view Bill as possessive to the next degree. I view this whole relationship extremely toxic and awful. Queer gamers who turned in said it felt like a watershed moment for LGBT representation in video games. Didn't they say the same thing when Ellie was retroactively turned gay? Because also in the game, when they meet Bill for the first time, Ellie takes some of Bill's gay prawn, opens it up to some of the centerfolds, and actually acknowledges it and gets a little hot and spicy, even though it's creepy, but it shows that she's attracted to dudes. But, then Neil Druckmann makes a DLC where he retroactively turns her lesbian, and that whole scene doesn't make sense anymore. So, you've already had your LGBTQ representation in video games. Oh, this is a watershed moment for video games, even though this is a TV show. This is nothing more than ESG. This is nothing more than DIE. This is nothing more than putting an awful episode out there, an awful show out there, and hiding behind the representation. Hiding behind all that. Bill's story, while a first for some, is just one queer storyline in an industry in which LGBT narratives are becoming more prominent. It doesn't make sense, though, because they're everywhere. Sometimes they work, sometimes they're wonderful, sometimes I don't care. In fact, Favorite gay actor, Ian McKellen. Sir Ian McKellen, to be fair. Favorite gay character, Gus from Breaking Bad. I don't care if you're gay. I love Gus from Breaking Bad because guess what? He happens to be gay. He's not gay all the time. I view Frank and Bill in this show as nothing more than the pride flag constantly. Their house was missing just the pride flag. More prominent. For example, a queer character included transgender man Tyler Rohn in 2020's Tell Me Why and Dorian Pavis in 2014 Dragon Age Inquisition. Queer-themed games date as far back as 1992 Gay Blade, according to LGBTQ media advocacy group GLAAD. GLAAD is nothing more than a activist shill group that doesn't know what the heck they're talking about half the time. Still, it has taken decades for them to attain the level of mainstream visibility they now enjoy. The fact, though, is they get overrepresentation. They are overrepresented. That's part of the problem. But, you can't point that out or else you're a homophobe. This episode was crap. And also, when you take into this, okay, gay characters have been around since 1992, but you didn't have a moment with them until 2013. That contradicts everything. But this article is written by people that don't know the original game. This Darian Laustein, 41, doesn't know the game. He doesn't play it religiously, and he doesn't know games in general. If this is when people were first exposed, even though they've been around since 1992, it doesn't make sense. I don't like this show. I don't like this episode. I think it ruins everything and ignores literally what just happened the episode prior when they establish a hive mind and establish that the tendrils go all over the world and you can step on them anywhere. But, using the show to point out issues is homophobic. But let me get your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it out with your friends, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell for every time I put out a new video and go live, guys. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.